about to hear a revolution in talk radio, Liberty Talk Radio, where the critical thinking will defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm Joe Cristiano, your host, and welcome to us to the program this morning. I guess this afternoon. The day is flying by like crazy. Today, I'd like to just have a mini broadcast on something that's just really gnawing at me. My wife recently purchased a car. We got into a fender bender. Someone rear-ended her car and had to be totaled, so we had to buy a new car. So we went back to the dealership where we bought our cars before, and she got the car that she liked, and everything was fine. And it was amazing the amount of work that we had to go through in order to buy this car. It was absolutely incredible. There were more options that you could throw a stick at. I am still confused as to really what we bought and how we bought it. But we're here and we're alive, and I think that's the important thing. The thing I wanted to talk about today was it seems that we as a nation have so many systemic problems. I don't think we can work our way out of it. Now, after buying this car, we had to go through all sorts of contortions, had to get credit lines established and whatever. We have perfect credit, no problem. But we did have to call a credit reporting agency in which my wife put a lock on so that no one could steal our name or whatever it is she did. And in doing so, we had to speak to one of their representatives. I told my wife, I said, well, you realize that if we speak to one of their representatives, now this is Equifax, this is a big company, you realize that we will have difficulty understanding them. She said, well, why is that? I said, because most likely they're not from America, they're probably from India or the Far East or someplace, or Bangladesh or someplace where they hire people at a lower wage rate, and unfortunately they're intelligent people and they speak very well, considering that they're from a totally different culture. They speak very well. I don't understand them. I said, now, I'm not being disrespectful to them. In fact, I applaud them for doing this, because if I had to be in their shoes, speak their language to help them, I don't think I'm capable of doing that. I don't think many Americans are capable of doing that. So we dialed the phone, we got transferred, and we got transferred to someone. I don't know what country, I did not ask, but it sort of sounded like someplace in the Far East, probably India, but I'm not sure. Now, the person was very courteous. He was very thorough. Unfortunately, every time he asked a question, I had to say, would you please repeat yourself, ask the question again, and speak a little bit more slowly. I am having difficulty understanding you. I must have said that 5 times. And I'm not blaming that person. That person did a wonderful job. He did a superior job than I would ever do if I was in his shoes. But here's my problem. Why am I calling India regarding a car accident in the United States, to an American company? Well, the reason for that is because it's less expensive to have people in India, service us than it is to hire an American. Now, why is that? Well, because we have minimum wage laws. Now, for those people who applaud the minimum wage, I'd like you to think twice about that. Now, please don't get me wrong. I have 2 businesses, and we pay well above the minimum wage, and we want to because the people are worth it, and the type of jobs that they have requires some skills. Oh yeah, we can get away with hiring some people at the minimum wage, and this and that, and probably have a lot of turnover, but we don't do that. We pay a lot more than minimum wage. We have no turnover. Everyone's a happy camper. But this is not why I'm calling, not why I'm having this program. I don't want you to think that I'm so wonderful that I have a company and that I pay above minimum wage. My point is that if in fact we complain about jobs being shipped overseas, well, why? Why are they being shipped? They're shipped overseas because of the minimum wage. The minimum wage, I believe right now, nationwide is $7.25 an hour. Now, I'm not suggesting that the jobs that these people have are not worth more than $7.25 an hour. Not at all. And I think they're well worth it if they're intelligent and they understand the system and they explain it and they're performing a customer service. They should get paid at least that, if not a lot more. But the reality of it is that these jobs are overseas because they get paid less than $7.25 an hour, at least in their country, relative to their country. Now, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a job here that pays $7.25 an hour, or have no job at all and have that person on unemployment or maybe on welfare? Well, my problem is that every time the government tries to help, and they try to help. They say, well, people should get paid a living wage or a decent wage, and you can give all the definitions you want to it, all the titles you want to it. The government dictates the salary. Now let's go through this very simply. Let's assume we had no minimum wage, and a company said, well, we can pay somebody $3 an hour in India, or pay someone $3 an hour here. All right. Now, if we have someone in India, we're going to have a certain amount of customer dissatisfaction because they're going to be on the phone twice as long saying, what? I don't understand you. Would you please repeat that? Versus having someone in the United States who probably, and I'm assuming this for a second, being a little bit more coherent, a little bit linguistically more understanding, etc. And the calls would be much shorter. In other words, they can take twice as many calls as the people overseas, just because people wouldn't be asking them to please repeat themselves. And again, I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming the system. Now, this is what happens when the government gets involved in the free enterprise system, in the business cycle. The government has no room, no right to be involved in that. If a person has a job, if in my company I have a job and I say, I want to pay 1 penny an hour, that's all I'm going to pay, 1 penny an hour, and I put an ad and say, come work for me, I'm going to pay you 1 penny an hour. How many people do you think would show up for the job? No one, right? So in other words, I would have to pay according to what the market will bear, and not only that, but what the job requirements are. Now, if it's just a job filing papers, sweeping the floor, or something like that, of course you're not going to pay that person the same amount as you're going to pay your high-end salesman who's going out visiting customers and trying to solicit business. So it's all relative. Now, let's assume for a second that I said, all right, we're going to have this call answering system, and we're only going to pay $3.50 an hour, right? And if no one shows up, we have to raise the price, raise the rate. So we raise the rate until we find people for the job. Now let's say we say, well, we're only going to pay $3 an hour, just like they do in India, and I'm assuming it's $3 an hour. I really have no idea how much they get paid. But the people that we get for $3 an hour really are unqualified to do the work properly. Well, what do we have to do? Well, we're not going to pay for their education to answer the phone. This is something they should have known right off the bat. They should have known that before they did that, before they took the job. And us hiring, we should have realized that these people did not have the skills for the job. And if we find that the people at $3 an hour don't have the skills for the job, we have to increase the pay. As we increase the pay, we get more and more educated, more and more qualified. Let me say, not educated so much, but more qualified people. And because they're in the United States, they can take twice the number of calls. So let's say in India, they take five calls an hour. And I'm just making that up for the sake of this discussion, all right? But because in the United States, people are not asking, what? Would you please repeat that? I didn't understand that. They can take 8 to 10 calls an hour. Well, that person would be more productive. If they're more productive and they're taking more calls, instead of having, let's say, 20 people answering the phone, maybe you just need 15. So you can pay the rest of the people more money. But the free market is the one that determines that, not the government. This is the problem. It's the government that's causing the problem. It's the government restrictions that's causing the problems. It's the government rules that are causing problems. The government has no right to be in my face when I'm hiring someone. But when they do, instead of me saying, oh, I'm a mean businessman, I just want to take all the money for myself and let the people starve in the street, that is so much garbage. That's this liberal, stupid garbage that you hear from these politicians because they want to get in office. When they get in office, they get kickbacks from large corporations, the corporations that they're imposing all of these restrictions on. They're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They retire in multimillionaires while the rest of us have to pay that salary. So, I mean, who's being disingenuous and who's being honest about this? Well, the government is being disingenuous because they're saying we're doing it so we can help the people. Well, you're not helping the people. You're unemploying the people. You're preventing people from getting jobs. If a person came up to me, in fact, one time a fellow came up to my office. They said, Mr. Cristiano, I'd like to work for your company. I said, fine. In fact, he was a minority, and I said, very nice fellow, very nice. And he said, I said, well, I don't have need right now, but I may have in the near future. He said, look, he says, I want to prove to you that you cannot do without me. I said, well, how are you going to do that? He said, I will work for free. Now, he was from the poor end of town, and he was really sincerely looking for a job and a career, you know? And he was well-dressed. He was very articulate. And I said, yeah, I can't believe you can't find a job. I said, you seem to be very professional in your own right. He says, it's very difficult to find a job today. So, now this was about 15 years ago, so this is old history. Ancient history, actually. So I said, well, I cannot not pay you because if in fact you work for me and I don't pay you, they'll lock me up. They'll close my business. The government will close my business down. He says, well, I won't say anything. I said, son, I can't take that risk. I said, what if? I mean, I'm not saying you're lying to me, but what if, something happens? And you say, well, I'll fix him. I'll tell the government that I've been working there for a week and he hasn't paid me and he refuses to pay me. They'll throw me in jail or whatever they do. They'll fine me. They'll close my business down. I said, I cannot take the risk. And he left dejectedly and rejected, I guess. And I felt badly. And here was a young fellow who was anxious to work, wanted to learn the business. I'm in the occupational testing business, wanted to learn the business. I would love to hire him, but I couldn't do it because of government regulations. Now, I didn't need anyone at the time. If I needed someone at the time, I would have started him out at $10, $15 an hour, and brought him to, had him certified and the whole bit. But I didn't need anyone. And we run on a very tight ship. I mean, I usually take no salary at all, so I can pay my employees a decent salary. I take if there's something left over, and sometimes there's not. Many times there's not. Well, I don't need the money, so I give it to my employees, and when I do get money, I give them bonuses. I know I sound like a crazy man, but this is what I do. And I would have loved to hire this poor minority from the north side of town, to be in my company. But who restricted me from doing so? The government. The government is not doing anyone any favors. Just because they put $7.50 an hour, or they said that if you don't pay them, you're going to go to jail. Government is a restriction to enterprise. It's a restriction to employment. It restricts innovation. It restricts people's enthusiasm to work. And what do we have today because of these fine labor laws, right? We have record unemployment with young people, especially in the inner cities where the education system is not all that good. You know, they wind up on the street, and we have this beautiful, wonderful war on drugs where they figure they make more money in drugs than they can get on any other job. Even working for IBM, they can make more money working drugs. So the government puts all these walls and restrictions up that literally funnels people into illegal enterprises or makes people work illegally, right? And then causes a hell of a problem. And then they're unemployed. But some of these kids doing illegal enterprises are making more money than people who are working legitimate jobs. Now, where's the sanity here? Folks, my point of this whole diatribe is that the government should get out of the way. Government, we shouldn't have a Republican Party and a Democrat Party and all this other crap. What we should have is should have an constitutional party rather. Everyone has to obey the Constitution, has to understand the Constitution, has to swear to abide by the Constitution, has to reference the Constitution if they're running for office, has to swear that they will not violate the Constitution at all. And if they do violate any aspect of the Constitution, and I don't care how you interpret it or how you try to stretch it, they should be thrown out of office immediately. No voting, no nothing. They're just out. But we don't do that. So what do we have today? We have people like Bernie Sanders saying, "Oh, I'll fix America. We'll start people at $15 an hour." Well, then another X percent of the population who's employed will be unemployed, and they'll wind up in Bangladesh or wherever those jobs wind up. Folks, we need to get government out. Please, when you vote, just vote. I don't want to say libertarian because I don't think the libertarian should be a party. If I was running for office, I would run as a libertarian Democrat or a libertarian Republican, or put another way, a constitutional Democrat or constitutional Republican. It would make no difference because the principles are all the same. You don't take the Constitution and say, well, I'll bend it this way and bend it that way. That's the way we need to run our business. This is the way we need to run our government. We need to get rid of I think there's 20 million people working for the federal government, all making high-level, gigantic paychecks. You know, it's draining our company. We are mega trillions of dollars in debt. And how are we solving it? Raising the minimum wage. Folks, we have a problem. Well, I hope you enjoyed this program. I hope it sort of sparked you a little bit. If you'd like to send me some email and disagree with me, please do so. Send me your comments to libertytalkradio.com. Okay? And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening. And until next time, in fact, we're going to have a program very soon with economist Andy Sutton, and we'll let you know. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.